We continue now with our coverage of the explosion at the federal building in Oklahoma City, which occurred at 9 a.m. this morning. We have heard accounts of those that were inside the building and were rescued from people that witnessed the explosion from outside the building. As many as 100 people have been injured. Here now, one of the folks that came to the rescue, the comments from a fireman at the scene.
Tell me about the rescue efforts at this point.
Well, Jane, it's going very, very slow. We have to because there's still an imminent danger of building collapse. And it's also very frustrating for us because our folks want to be in there and doing things. We are in there. We're talking to victims through void spaces. People are crying out to us. We're reassuring them the best we can. We've got hydraulic tools. We've got some of the dogs in. We've got some listening devices in. And again, it's very, very slow. We're able to reach through cracks and hold people's hands and reassure them as best we can, but getting to them is going to take a long time.
Any word yet on the death toll?
No, ma'am. We've got a number of fatalities inside the building, and we're counting those as we go to our people that are alive. And you know, this is going to take a long time to do this. We're doing the best we can on the rubble that we can get through. But we're going to have to get heavy equipment in and lift some walls and flooring out. This is very similar to what happened in California where in the earthquake where buildings that come down and floors pancake on other floors. A lot of void spaces we need to check. And again, you see firefighters coming out of the building with tears in their eyes, you know, dealing with hearing people they can't get to. But we're making those efforts, and we're going to do the very best we can. We
have unconfirmed reports from earlier this morning on the scanner that there was flooding in the basement area and the lower floors. Is that true?
Well, in an explosion of this type, you have utilities severed, and we got a report that we had some water mains break, some gas mains break, and that inside the building, and that's something we had to deal with to make sure we didn't have any secondary explosions. So, and there still may be a danger of that, even though the utility companies have done a marvelous job getting those utilities cut off. It's very dangerous right now. Building's unstable, and we could have another collapse with our firefighters inside.
Obviously a tense situation. What are you hearing about the possibility of other bombs in other buildings in the area?
Well, you know, that's something that we've heard about, just rumors. We're going to go about our business and we rescue people we can rescue. You know, we had to shut down our operation for about 20, 30 minutes because of that, and that was very frustrating because we were right at the point where we had people and we had to leave them, but we got back to them, and like I said, it's just going to be maybe a 2 or 3 day event.
We are joined now by a man who more than likely can identify with the frustrations of that fireman who is working the explosion in the heart of Oklahoma City. He is Greg Maxwell. A little bit about Greg. He is a former Red Cross FEMA disaster response planner, was a disaster director for Northeastern Ohio, also a former Region 1 disaster planner for the state of California in the Office of Emergency Services. As I get it, you work with cities to help them plan for things like we're seeing today.
Yeah, you try to plan for multiple incident planning of what do you do when you have multiple incidents, multiple casualties that you're not normally used to on a day-to-day basis.
I don't mean for you to sit in judgment of the Oklahoma City people, but how would you say they are handling the situation today?
I think they're handling it very well. As you can see, they have their response teams that are out there. I'm sure that the city's being serviced as well in any of the outlying community areas. A city has to manage all of its resources and make sure the deployment of those resources are in a slow process, like he said, that you don't want to move and dump everything in there right away. You want to slowly move into the process of any type of disaster like that.
We have a note here from CNN military affairs correspondent Jamie McIntyre, who says that the Army is sending in UH-1 Huey helicopters from Fort Sill to help with the evacuation. As the fireman indicated, the structure of the building is so iffy that they perhaps will have to evacuate bodies or even survivors from the roof of the building. Tell us how and this would be the federal government, commingling with the local authorities in a disaster of this sort.
Mainly what happens is within a city the mayor will declare a state of disaster, and they'll request assistance from the county. The county in turn will request assistance from the state. I've heard through the news reports that President Clinton has offered assistance and that FEMA is moving in, and FEMA has those resources able to deploy them into a city. All cities always do tests, exercises. They work with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, with the local Red Cross in their disaster planning, and they test for things like this. Even though it might have not been an explosion that they expected, but anything that's going to disable or cripple a city like this has today, There are many exercises that I'm sure that this city has done prior to this.
We heard Mike McCurry over at the White House referring to the mobile command center being set up in Oklahoma City to incorporate not only FEMA but the Marshal Service and other federal agencies. Where is the command structure here? How's the command structure? Who says we need what and we need it now?
That's kind of hard to say because I don't know really the attitudes of each person that's there. Mostly the mayor is responsible for his city, and he is there assisted. But since this is a federal building and it gets into legal things that are out of my expertise at all, but I believe the federal government, it's their property. So it's kind of hard to say, but it's very much of a joint effort and a joint cooperation.
We've also heard Mike McCurry telling reporters that we build on past experiences. That's as far as federal emergency response is concerned. Now, we had the World Trade Center bombing. Can we assume that cities like Oklahoma City and other cities have, in some ways, beefed up their emergency preparedness because of World Trade Center and other such situations?
Almost every disaster has a lessons learned that usually comes around a year after the disaster, once you could put everything together, an after-action report. And emergency management experts from around the country always review these. It's almost like looking at a Bible to us, that you constantly look at it and say, this is something new, we haven't prepared for it, let's prepare for it now.
Oh, so there is a Bible.
Well, if you want to call it that.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Is there a way that cities can prepare for every eventuality, or is there a list of priorities?
There's a list of priorities. You can never be too prepared. You can never be perfect. There is no perfect place to be. You keep learning from different publications. There's many disaster publications out there. There's different private companies that put out a publication. There's federal publications that come out on disasters and lessons learned after. So in the city itself that experiences that disaster, they publish a document that talks about the after-action reports.
Now, this disaster today, the explosion caused by a car bomb, 1,000 to 1,200 pounds parked outside the federal building in downtown Oklahoma City. How do you avoid that from happening at another federal building in another city at another time?
That's getting into bomb expert, and that's kind of out of my realm. Mine is mainly into city management and how a city would respond to an incident.
But a city would have to manage their federal properties within the city limits in the future to avoid something like this. Are we going to become a nation of barriers?
No. You want to make sure, again, you're getting into preparedness, into disaster of a bomb, which is a terrorism, which is out of my realm in emergency management. But within a city like Oklahoma will learn, one, if this does happen, where do we place people? How do we set up shelters? How do we care for them in the hospitals? We notice that we put too many people in this hospital. Next time, we'll put together a plan that once 50 people go to this ER, we shut it down, and we make sure that we have route systems to make sure that we can utilize other hospitals within the city, within the county, and within our state, and make up different routes. These are types of lessons I think that Oklahoma is going to learn from this. They're doing a very good job right now with this whole incident from all the reports that I've read and that I've been hearing about. But mainly a city is going to look at how they deploy people. Where do they deploy the people? I'm sure the Public Works Department is shutting down power lines. They're shutting down their gas lines and their water so it doesn't get contaminated in those areas. So as this is going on, they're learning right now.
And it's going to be a very tight-knit community for the next several weeks, isn't it?
There's two sides to every coin. Once there's a disaster, the impact, but then there's also that mending of the disaster afterwards where people pull together. There are people in this community that are probably going to be friends the rest of their lives now, and they've probably just met because of this disaster, and they have a common bond here. And that happens with from Hurricane Andrew, Midwestern floods. Many people pull together, and the community becomes a tighter, closer-knit community.
All right. Greg Maxwell, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Natalie.
CNN first reported to you that it was a car bomb that caused the explosion at the federal building in Oklahoma City this morning. We have just learned from the fire chief that there is a deep crater in front of the building. And get this, there are people in that crater trapped alive. The rescue teams can see them, but they can't get to them yet. And of course, that, I guess, is their next priority as the rescue attempts go on to try and to reach the people that are trapped alive inside a deep crater outside the federal building.
I'm not a crook.